everyone for joining us. There were a super chat which I'll get to from Seb Wolf saying, "We've been shit, Sim. Stop the nonsense, brother."
I didn't deny we've been shit. I'm saying the statement from Ben was since the first 10 games we've been shit. I disagree with that. As I've said, after the first 10 games, which we were good, we then obviously had that little bit of an injury crisis in that little period where we then ended up losing 4 of the 5 games, drawing 1 against City. After that, for the next 16 games, we won 10 of them, drawing 3 and winning and losing 3. So that was actually top 4 form we showed in those next 16 games. So that wasn't shit. And to do that in his first season was pretty good, actually, considering we had that injury crisis. So we did turn it around. And then we ended the season, I think the last 6 games of the season, we lost quite a few heavy ones. And obviously we did play the top 5, but we lost them quite heavily and it was a really poor end to the season. So no doubt about that. But again, you can't just take away that other bit because it doesn't suit the narrative. We were in top 4 form for a good period of that season after the first 10 games. So you can't just completely wipe that away, in my opinion. But we had a bad end to the season and we ended up finishing 5th. I think that was a fairly decent finish in terms of the position. And then this season, after a sloppy start results-wise where maybe our results didn't really match the performances. We then went on a run of 9 wins in 11 games. And again, we started to play well. I thought we were playing well at times. And then we had a couple of sloppy results against Palace and Ipswich, which was not great. And then we got hit with a massive injury crisis, which has really derailed us. And as I've said, but before the injury crisis, in terms of the points per game we were on, we was at 1.67, which would be 36 points right now, which would be kind of 8th, 2 points off 5th. So we wouldn't be in a disastrous situation if we kept up that kind of. It wouldn't be perfect, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be this disaster. But we got hit with this injury crisis. We're losing players left, right, and centre. For 2 or 3. It's coming up on 3 months. We've had double digits of injuries. I mean, any squad with that kind of strain on their squad would be suffering big time. Now, can he be getting more results with even in this injury crisis? I'd like to think so. I'd like to think there would be more results in that period. Obviously, we have had some results but not just in the league. It's obviously been in cups and stuff, which is obviously seeing us through, which is good. But the league has just been relentless, and it's been and this league is so brutal this season with a lot of teams getting better and a lot of middle teams. If you have any sort of drop off, we've seen with other teams any sort of drop off, and you're just losing points left, right, and centre. And unfortunately, when you go 2 months with over 10 injuries, there's going to be a significant drop off, and that's what we're seeing. So that is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we haven't been bad in this period. My just contention was since the first 10 games we've been shit. I disagree with that. I'm not saying we haven't been shit for a while, because we have. But my point is I disagree with the statement that since the first 10 games we've been shit.
I mean, just look at wins and losses, just pure results from that point till now.
Just broke it down very specifically.
Yeah, and if you actually look at the numbers of how many wins and how many losses, I think we had more losses than wins since that period.
Yeah, mainly because we've just lost 10 in a row.
But still, even up to the point, what was the wins versus losses? It was still not a great ratio.
I mean, I don't think I can break it down any more specifically than I did.
But I'm saying the pure results from the first 10 games up until even to the injury crisis wasn't great. Pure results.
I told you. I mean,
you gave me periods, yeah, and you just.
I gave you every single period. I gave you every single period. I don't think I could break it down any more than I did.
You don't need to break it down. I'm telling you that the results have not been good enough. Yeah, we might have gone on strings of results in certain moments of time, but on a whole, when you're looking at it on a whole, on a bird's eye view, it's not been good enough. Yeah,
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, I gave you all the context. And look, people are watching. I gave all the context that people can have. We've gone through good periods when we have gone through bad periods. Overall, it's not been good enough, but I do think a large part of that is because the form we've been on in the last 2 months. As I've said, if the form carried on from the beginning of the season, yes, we were losing too many games, but in terms of we were also winning games, and we were winning games fairly consistently, yes, it was kind of one win, one loss, but in this kind of season, that wouldn't have put us in a horrific position if we would have carried on that kind of form. We're in the position now because of the injuries. As I've said, last season, people say after the first 10 games we were shit. It's not true, as I've broken it down. And overall, because of how we ended last season in the last 7 games and because of this current losing streak we're on, that's caused the overall picture to look absolutely horrific. I don't believe if the situation were different, it wouldn't be like that. But that's the situation we're in, and we have to accept that and understand. I understand that situation, but I understand the context as well. I'm not saying everything would have been sunshine and roses if we had no injuries. I'm sure we'd also have disappointing results along the way there as well. I just don't think we would be in the mess that we're in now, and that's my opinion.
So you're happy with his managerial, how he's done at Spurs, you know, if you take out of the injury crisis?
I don't know how it would be if we took out the injury crisis.
Yeah, let's say before at the point of before the injury crisis, you're very happy with the way
I wouldn't say very happy, but I don't think we'd be in the mess we're in now. And I think we had shown signs of improvement. Actually,
we wouldn't be in a relegation battle. I'll give you that. But
no, we would still be in all the cups, and it would still be in fight for Europe.
In all the cups.
Yeah, exactly. And we would and I think we would still be in contention for Europe. 100%. I do think that. Yeah. And then I don't. And if that's the case, I don't think anyone's melting down.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be in a top 4 fight. I think maybe a Europa League or
I would say
Conference League.
The league is very tight in that top half, and I think if we didn't have this injury crisis, we'll probably be somewhere. I'd posit somewhere in between like 10th and 6th, and if we're there, you're still only. In terms of being close to that top 5, you're still not many points off that. So,
where many other managers have been sacked for being there. So, in terms of the history of this football club, it's still sackable form.
No, I disagree with that. It wouldn't be sackable form.
Why not?
It wouldn't be if we didn't have the injury crisis.
Even before the injury crisis, we'd lost 6 or 7 games.
No.
How many was it?
Because we just lost. I think we've lost 5.
Okay, so 1 more loss than what I said.
Yeah, but we'd also won games. We're winning games. Look, we've been through this 100 times.
We lost to Newcastle, Arsenal, Brighton, Palace, Ipswich. Yeah, 6 games. Or was that 5 games? Whatever. Yeah, look, it's just not good enough, and we need. I just don't feel like Ange is ever going to do anything at Spurs. So I just don't understand what like you see or other people see in this project, or if you even want to call it a project.
It's been derailed massively. I think I'm not saying, again, I mean, I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself. I'm not saying things were perfect before. We were still a young team. We obviously didn't do enough in the summer. We're still a team that was growing, and we weren't this perfect, well-oiled team yet. But we were still winning games, and when we were winning them with brilliant football and winning them well, and battering teams. We're still in all the cups, and I do think we would have been in that race for Europe if it wasn't for this. What's it called? Derailment of the injuries. Now we're in the position where we are because we've gone 2 months with double-digit injuries, and that's why we're in the position that we are. I do think if we can get over these injuries and get back to what we had, we can start winning games again, and we wouldn't be in the position that we are in. And I think the league, unfortunately, the damage has been done. I don't think we can get anywhere now in the league because of that situation. But I do think that if we can get our players back and get them back into some sort of form, then we can maybe do something in the cups. But with whether we can get there, I don't know at this point, and that's because the situation seems to be getting worse. And that's my only point. That's all I've got to say.
All right. Well, there you have it. That what's this one? Footy something says, Sim, will you ever say Ange out? He was very close after the Everton game. He was very close.
If I believe it, I'll say it. On the brink. If I believe it, I'll say it.
And Alex Humphreys says, surely Ange needs to take some blame for these injuries, style of play, lack of rotation and intense training.
I don't deny that. I don't deny he takes some blame, but we've got 11 injuries or 12 injuries, and half of them are not because of that. So it's not all his fault, is my point. And also the fact that it's all happening at the same time, I don't think that's just always on him. And I've said last season, people say it's 2 injury criteria. Last season, again, it was 1 muscle injury. Madison was an ankle injury. It just happened during a game. The other players, Perisic did his ACL. Like in training, like I don't think that's on Ange. Solomon, Lo Celso, Richarlison have always been injury-prone players before Ange even came in. So the fact that he's picked up injuries under Ange, again, I think it'd be unfair of me to lay the blame on Ange for them picking up injuries when they've always picked up injuries. So that's last season. This season, as I've said, a lot of them are not his fault. Maybe some of them are. Probably some of them are, I would say. When you play the way we do, you are going to pick up injuries. But it's the sheer amount at the same time in the same position, which I think luck comes into it. But yeah, of course he takes some blame. He could have done things better. There has been some mismanagement. There has been some, maybe in some situations, lack of rotation where he
clear mismanagement.
I think that you can lay the blame at his feet. But I think putting the whole situation on him, I think is unfair. And that I think, with the fact that we have 12 injuries, you say it's all his fault, I think is unfair. That's
Who says it's all his fault?
Well, you want to sack him over it.
Because he has a contributing factor.
Right. That's blaming him for it.
I also want to sack Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
I also want Levy out of the club as well. So does that mean, you know what I mean? I think...
Yeah, because you think the whole situation is Levy's fault.
I've said it very clear that Daniel Levy is the ultimate problem with this football club. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we need a manager, the way that Daniel Levy runs his foot. Daniel Levy ain't going anywhere, right? We can all say that.
Agreed.
Quite honestly, Daniel Levy ain't going anywhere. So with the way Daniel Levy runs the club, you can't have a manager like Ange Postecoglou at the helm.
I disagree.
It just doesn't work.
I just disagree.
Why do you disagree? Because you're saying that if we go out the cups, then the situation's going to be untenable. And if you really think Postecoglou's a long-term answer, then you'll want to stick with him past that and go through the rough patch.
I would like to. I never said I would sack him. I think it will become untenable for the club. That's what I'm saying. I do think if we can stick with him and allow these young players to grow with him, give him the keep building on the squad that we have and improve on it, I do think he can be good. But I also realistic that if we go out of all the cups and we're still in a relegation battle, then that would become untenable for him when it comes to the club. I'm not saying I would want him necessarily sacked. Depends how I feel at the time. But obviously, we're in a precarious situation at the moment. But I do think he could be a potentially good long-term manager for this club. But right now, the situation we're in, it's hard to see him getting to the other side. That's my only point.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But anyway, I think that is it from us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,